to the show today. We got a banger. We got another banger. There's been fireworks and chainsaws and tornadoes and all kinds of stuff going on. Welcome to the ecosystem where you hashtag LP for free. I think that's what we're calling it now. We've Axis might have coined the phrase. You come here, you put in your hard-earned money, and if you're not an earning incentive token, then you're just contributing to the buy and burn. That is the tragedy that is taken down so many people this morning, and they just cannot believe that they would just put their money somewhere and not get any return for 2 weeks. That's what we need to be talking about. And not enough people are brave, but we need to be braver. Okay, we need to be braver and talk about this, because that's what we should focus on. Really, the short-term value props of something that really doesn't matter. I was telling everyone in the green room too. I just saw a lot of comments this morning about people mad. And again, I was watching Graphics' stream earlier, and yeah, it sucks. Whatever. LP fees weren't paid. The network is new. The code has been there forever. Like there's certain things you can't even anticipate. And even if it was, again, I lost LP fees too. The last couple of weeks, I'm missing them. My first response was, oh, okay, well, that's fine. There's incentive token. There's, it's going to get fixed soon. We're going to get a new version upgrade. It did not bother me at all. I had no emotional response when I saw that happen. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's an interesting bug. I actually thought it was fascinating that it could even happen, but it did not affect my state. Only thing that affected my state more than anything was seeing people complain about it so much, as if, you waited 2 years to get rich on LP fees in over 2 weeks, and now all your dreams are crushed because of that. I really don't think it's a big deal. So, anyways, apparently I don't think or react like anyone else. I guess if you want to follow someone who has the same responses and just gets mad with you together, and you can all just get mad together and get frustrated in a group in order to achieve whatever it is you think you're going to achieve doing it, or you can tune into the show and the guests I'm about to bring on, who bring both comedic relief and the alpha from time to time. And we can just move past this in about 3 days. Everyone will forget it even happened anyways. And we can go explore this amazing ecosystem, which is what I'm completely focused on. I could not care less about what happened with LP stuff. Could not care less. I hope we'll all make it back 10 times fold. Not a big deal. So anyways, without further ado, just want to get that out there. Welcome to the stream. Not only Axis Alive, but Crispy Man and the Sloth. How's it going, gentlemen?
What is going on?
What up, guys?
How's it going? Yelling into the wind is over. Now I can only be positive. I can only be positive. It's up to you, gentlemen, to bring it back down, though. Bring it back down to earth, right?
Well, I think you should reverse your entry, at least in Axis's point. Like sometimes he's funny, but the TA and the alpha is always there, man. Not sometimes.
He has facial hair. He has facial hair, and it goes good with pretty much all the other accessories he has on his face and nearby. So there's
and we're all wearing glasses. Hey, I have big news though, having to do with the LP stuff. So I just went and checked my LP position. I'm gaining rank. I'm higher up now. I'm earning more percentages of 0.
You're the only one getting paid. You're the only one. Nice.
I was like, woohoo!
Are you the okay? Is this proof?
I guess. I don't know, man. No, I wish.
Yeah.
What up, guys, in the chat?
Do you own the burn address? That's who's getting rich right now. The burn address the last couple of weeks. Yeah. What's up, everyone?
Hello, chat.
Thin Bear. Yeah, I got
some bottom and by the top for mad gains and no taxes.
Yep.
That's the usual plan.
Oh man, that hurts.
Tax loss harvesting in frickin' May. What?
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? That's immediately what came to mind for me. I mean, I know it's like I came pretty quick to the conclusion, don't do anything. So then I went and did one thing, but I won't tell you what that is. But I said I came to that conclusion not to do anything and just kind of let things shake out. But there is a real problem for me, because I likely now have a tax event. And the reason and this is just my own opinion, and I'll have to talk to my accountant about it, but I have 3 things that were given to me that now were sold and swapped for something else. And I'm going to be forced to claim that. I mean, I don't know any other way I could do that. But we shall see.
Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting morning. You know, Sloth and Crispy and myself have been just rolling around, couldn't sleep at night because we're just trying to figure out where the hell all our LP fees were going.
Yeah.
Then we looked at the screen this morning. We found out we were giving 5 times the amount of value to the buy and burn function on PulseX. Woohoo!
Well, I'm a big holder of PulseX, so
Yeah.
I might have made it up on the other end, dude. Maybe that's
Not the
maybe
absolute worst thing.
RHMax. That maybe that's how the conversation should go. You know, just
About
Well,
why
like,
it's
I've
a
been
good thing.
yeah, pump my bag.
Been getting a bunch of questions, like, you know, talking to Crispy, talking with Axis, and then me and you, Max, were DMing last night. You're trying to figure out, like, where do I find out where my fees are going?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is weird. Like, and I dug around in like the Uniswap V2 white paper because I'm like, it's got to be somewhere because that's like the code we're copying basically.
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, so the way it's supposed to work is the fees go into the liquidity pool, like as like into it. So it's like you don't get more tokens in terms of your LP tokens. You just get you're entitled to more coins with the same number of LP tokens. So it made sense to me from the UI perspective, like that we didn't have separate coins showing like you do on a Uniswap V3 system. But like it was weird to me that people were reporting not seeing larger numbers of coins generally as the days went on. Like it was kind of the same plus or minus if you accounted for impermanent loss, which was weird for me. And I was like, well, I've got to be missing something. And we found out what I'm missing. There were no fees in the first place.
Yeah,
We're missing all of it.
That is
So,
funny. We had
like-
that conversation last night, and then this came out this
Yeah.
morning. That's funny.
Yeah, and so like the upside to this whole thing is like, okay, if you believed in the Richard Hart ecosystem and you sacrificed for Pulse and PulseX, you likely are either A, own PulseX and benefiting from the increase in buy and burn, or B, you have PulseChain validators running and you're earning yield that way,
Mhm.
or C, we're earning a lot of ink token by providing LP, so the ink token offset the losses from fees. And that's great if you were in one of those 3 categories. But there was people that had LP positions not in the farms, and then maybe they don't have that big of positions on PulseX and or PulseChain, and are not validating. And it's just like it's a shot in the foot, really, I think, for a lot of people. And this is the type of stuff that I look at and I laugh because in a few years, you know, it'll be forgotten about. It'll be fixed and forgotten about. But you cannot deny the fact that this is what gives the OG HEX value. Is like it prevents from any catastrophic failures on the pulse chain. And we can tell you that, like, because of Hart's law, these things are going to move up and down together. And it's nice to have a position that's still in the RH ecosystem, but it's outside the Pulse thing. Like that's been like the big contentious debate this week has been one of the hexes, right? Like, oh, some are in pro one hex or the other hex. Everyone's got reasonings why they want one or the other. I'm in the boat that you want both equally, because there's a good reason that you're in both, because one is not subject to the other one, largely. And so, yeah, this was probably like the worst in terms of like what could have went wrong for PulseX. It just seems disingenuous that you're getting. I mean, it was convenient that you had 5x the buy and burn, but like the real ugly truth here is that, look, we were supposed to get a blockchain that was like 70% faster than Ethereum, and this one's only like 21% faster than Ethereum, right? The bridge was clogged up for the first week, which created this immense backlog of buy pressure. But once that was gone, where's the new money coming in from? There's no fiat on-ramp. There's no native stablecoin. We're totally relying on Ethereum, and yet you have Hexicans like ready to drop Ethereum on its head like it's the demon. Makes no sense. That's where all your value is coming from. This works because it's being scaled in parallel, so that in a perfect world we'll have value across both. I mean, I could go on and on. Fees started at 1 to 2 pulse. Now they're up to like 1,000 to 2,000 pulse for a swap. To do LP stuff, it can be as high as 5,000 pulse. So like it's like 1,000x factor increase in fees. Like you just got to look at it for what it is, man. Like it's a new ecosystem. It's a new chain. You know, it's cool. It's coming together, but it didn't launch perfectly, and now we're gonna have to suffer the short-term downside consequences of all that. And meanwhile, you have people tearing down the one thing that we had that was immutable and that got us to this point. It just makes no sense to me.
I'm very excited. You made me very excited. I really am. I do take the contrarian view. Like, I love all the things you said, and it just everything screams opportunity. Every single thing. Every time I see the price go down, I do the opposite. I literally in my head, I flip the green and red candles as well. Like, I get excited when people panic sell the PLSX because of almost a non-factor bug in the LP when everything else is going correct. And then even the HEX FUD and stuff. Like, I literally never thought I would see HEX around a penny again on the EHEX or PX side. So that's to me, it's like everything is about the opportunity mindset, and I'm actually okay with it not going well. I mean, it's not even, I don't even see it as going well or not well. It's just that all the things are, to me, are a natural part of a new network rolling out with this kind of just yield opportunities and just the amazing pieces that come together to create this ecosystem. Of course, there's going to be things that aren't going to be perfect at launch, but the imperfections is what I'm looking for. Imperfection is again the opportunity. And because if you believe it's going to be amazing, or you believe if you're long on the stock of this ecosystem, long on Richard Hart, whatever it is, then all the imperfection is the opportunity. So that's the way I look at it.
Well, we want to, for this system to move up in price at like as high as we think it can go, you need to get rid of the dead weight. And this dead weight has been here in Pulse and PulseChain, PulseX, since before they existed in HEX. Like there's been dead weight in that system for a very long time. And the only way to fix the problem is extremely low prices. It's like what the Federal Reserve does when inflation gets out of control. They raise rates, make it cost of money more expensive so that demand slows, so that prices fall. And if prices fall far enough, a good actor can come in and do what's right.
Well said. I wanted to take a look at the farms though too. Let's just forget for a moment that any of the LP stuff happened, because I really want to take a view of the farms and kind of address some of the key questions around them too. Like, maybe we'll start with that, and Sloth or Crispy can jump in too. Like, what are the opportunities on PulseX? Like, we have the farms, we have LP providing. Like, can we just do just to introduce people who may not know like how to navigate this so well? Like, what are the opportunities on this platform?
Yeah, I can do that. So PulseX is just a decentralized exchange where you can go to swap your tokens, and the traditional model for how you can make money on that is by providing liquidity, which means when people do their trading, you're giving your coins for other people to trade. Typically, you get paid a fee with that, but as of right now, the PulseX fees all are going to the PulseX buy and burn. They're not going to the liquidity providers. So that's kind of unfortunate because people were like providing a service but not getting paid for that service. I mean, it'll be fixed, but as of now, the only income that you're making on PulseX is from the incentive token farms. But yeah, that's essentially what it is. It's a place to go swap your coins if you want to make fees or make some passive income with two coins that you don't care which one you hold more of long term. You can provide them in a pool, earn some passive income on that, and then yeah, use that income whatever you want, compound or sell or buy some more stuff. Doesn't really matter. The incentive pools, a lot of V2 exchanges like PulseX, they have certain pools that they quote unquote incentivize. And that means that they give an extra token to people who provide liquidity in those pools, in addition to the underlying fees that are generated from swaps. And the reason typically exchanges want to do that is to highlight a specific coin, or really in the PulseX case is to provide stable coin / ETH BTC liquidity so that there's some like underlying monetary backing to all of the coins that we have. So that's to get people to provide the thing that have quote unquote value, or that gives value to all of our tokens, but also to incentivize liquidity bonding so that as the prices of these coin moves, they'll move in tandem together, both in the upside and the downside. And there's a variety of different benefits for that and considerations for that. But that's essentially the long and short of what a DEX is, what the incentives are, and like what an incentivization pool is.
And I want to talk about the risk too, because I think a lot of people have stayed away from LP for a while now, but just because they are scared or don't understand impermanent loss or can't calculate the risk appropriately. So the risk for pairs, is it like, so like a couple things, like what do you think about when you're thinking about which pairs to go in? Like, will you worry about one of the coins getting rugged, for example? Is that like a risk that's factored in? Maybe that means higher APR, and we see that reflected as well. Am I going to have more than one coin than another, which equals less gains, but doesn't mean the position goes to zero? Like, that's a nuance as well. Like, what are the things that you look for in these positions, and how do you factor that into actually participating or not? Because a lot of people think they're just sitting on the sidelines just because they don't know, and there's quite a bit of APR going around that seems like you can rationalize the risk if you just think about it.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll answer that by starting kind of like what impermanent loss is, and a good way to start on that is like to talk about what you're actually doing when you're providing liquidity and like how price is derived. So price is derived simply by a function of the ratio of the two coins together in the liquidity pool. So if there's one HEX token and one USDC token in a liquidity pool, the ratio is 1-to-1 and HEX is $1. Now, let's say there are 5 HEX tokens and 5 USDC coins. Well, it's still backed 1-to-1, so it's $1. Now, say you're the person who's providing the liquidity. So you're providing the 5 HEX coins and the 5 USDC coins. Well, you're allowing other people to trade them. So if somebody wants, they can go in and put a USDC coin in and take out a HEX coin. So now all of a sudden, if that trade happens, there are 4 HEX coins in the pool and 6 USDC coins in the pool. And if price is derived as a ratio of what's in the pool, the value or the price of the HEX token has gone up. Well, that's great for the people who are holding the token. But if you look at the person who's providing liquidity, they're left with 4 HEX tokens and 6 USDC tokens. Now, the USDC one is worth $1, but the HEX token has gone up. So they own less of the thing that has gone up in value. And the reason why they do that is because people take away the thing that has more value, or by taking it away, they're increasing the price of it and putting in the thing that's going down in price. And that's how the price is actually made, by that exact interaction right there. So that's exactly what impermanent loss is. It's you accumulating more of the token that is going down in price and giving away the token that's going up in price, because your coins that are provided in the liquidity pool are dictating the price itself. And so in a situation like you were saying with the rug, or a rugging situation, what they would do is they'll maybe put a liquidity pool that has a high APY to get people to provide like some coin in ETH with it. They'll have a bunch of the tokens. They'll dump all of the tokens, remove the Ethereum from the pool. Then the founders or the owners of that contract keep all the Ethereum, and everybody that's left with their LP tokens only has this useless token that has no value because it's not backed by any Ethereum because the people took it. So that's an extreme example of a permanent loss where you're left with nothing and the scammers are left with all the value.
Yeah, and so then in terms of like which ones you'd want to provide for, where's the most opportunity and the least amount of risk, you're talking about like the Pulse to PulseX pair. Because they both launched at the same time, they have roughly the same supplies, and they will likely move up and down together relative to the dollar because they're so tightly interwoven with that $127 million of liquidity between them. So that's where you're going to get, like, yeah, the APR might be lower, but if you just leave Pulse and PulseX in there for an extended period of time, then you're actually going to make out pretty well in terms of the ink that you earn, especially if you're putting in size, right? And then the risk that you have there first isn't as high as if you did it against a stable coin, because in the world where you're pairing it against a stable coin, the price going, let's say like you're going to do DAI versus Ethereum, DAI versus Pulse. When Pulse is going up in value, you're effectively selling your Pulse at higher and higher prices as it goes up. But at some point you just don't have much Pulse left, and now you have a bunch of stable coins, but the coins that you initially had might be worth a lot more now. But then if you let it, so this is where time plays a role in this. So if you're going to let time pass and the price starts to recede back down into your range where you started the position, and all of a sudden you have the same amount of Pulse that you did when you went in, and you have the less of the stable coin that you had, right? Because you saw the stable coin balance go up and the Pulse go down as the price rose, and then it goes back the other way as the price comes down. You lose the stable coins and you get more of the Pulse back. And then you're sitting on all of the ink token that you had during that time period. In addition to, which is what this is supposed to be like, you'd have fees accrued as well, which is like the cherry on top. And we're waiting for that fix so that it really, there is a huge incentive there, right?
Yeah.
So that's a kind of a good way to look at it. There's a lot more risk in providing in stablecoin pairs and not so much risk in providing crypto to crypto pairs. Now, if it's been the crypto that's been around for a lot longer, like Ethereum, that has a higher price, that's already done an amazing run and created floors, that's going to kind of act more like a stable coin, where if like Pulse goes up 1000x versus Ethereum, you're going to have a lot more Ethereum, but Ethereum's not going to move as good as, say, Pulse, because it's more or less liquid and moves faster.
So what about the ones that, so we have the farms, they're incentivized and they're different than the pools. Is that more of like a blessing? Like these are the pairs, these are the coins that, whoever's providing the governance, like is it kind of, should we consider them rug proof or like just more confidence in having them? For, even WBTC, I mean, this is bridged over from Ethereum. So it's what are the risks with this pair, for example, even though it's high APR, why aren't more people participating in it?
I think Crispy, man.
Yeah, Crispy, you take this one, man.
Well, perhaps they don't have wrapped Bitcoin. That might be the first thing, right? That's the first thing.
I have an exchange they can use to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, if you had watched it come up, it came up from zero, right? The LP, and it's up to 16, 17 million. So I imagine that there's a goal to have a certain amount of liquidity across different pairs between the chains. And of course, I'm a complete degenerate. As soon as I saw that it went up the first time and it flashed, I did go buy some wrap BTC. So I have a little bit in that pool. Because I just wanted exposure to that as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that what this is I don't want to call it vampire deck, but what it is giving somebody the opportunity to take wrapped Bitcoin off of ETH and put it into Pulse. It kind of goes to the point that Axis is talking about. There's an awful lot of value over there on the Ethereum chain that is mobile and can come to PulseChain and can be staked there, and then people can earn a pretty good rate. And Richard covered that in one of his tweets. I mean, I don't know what the percentage ends up being because it's a sliding scale, but for a day, even for a day, to get 600%, break that down by 365 is a pretty good deal compared to what you get on the ETH side for just holding. You're just holding, right?
So there's not a rug possibility on that one because it's not this new coin that somebody just created and they can dump it all. It's actually WBTC from Ethereum, unless I'm missing something there. And the risk there is impermanent loss, where you just end up. So how does that work? So PulseChain moons, and then you end up with a bunch of wrapped Bitcoin. Like what are the
potentially? Yeah. You could end up with less Pulse. I mean, this is one of the reasons why you wouldn't I don't give financial advice anyways, right? But if thinking about it, if I only had a single bag of Pulse, I'm not going to put it into LP, the whole thing to LP. I didn't do that. I'm not going to do that. Why? Because I really don't understand everything that could happen, all the things I don't know about. But am I willing to take a small percentage? Yeah, I'd put a small percentage in there. What's the worst that would happen? I will end up with more wrapped Bitcoin that won't go up as fast in the bull. In my perception, what's going to happen won't go up as fast and won't go as high. I won't get as many X's. But there's an ulterior motive also to participating in some of this, and maybe not everybody thinks this way, but providing liquidity is a very important part of the economy. There's I don't know how you have a market without makers, right? So somebody's got to make markets. And it's all part of it. So some people participate, I believe, just because they want to support. It's not always just about the fees. I mean, it's going to be about the fees at some point, but.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just think it's such a lot of people, again, they're sitting on the sidelines because the impermanent loss, the unfamiliarity with the interface. You do have to click a lot of buttons. It is like, wow, can I just click one button and the contract just does all the stuff? But you got to get the coins, you got to supply them, you got to add them to the pool, and then but after that, it's you're just basically like, hey, harvest when you want and do all that stuff.
Well, I think with the farming's one thing, right? Because if something made it to the farm, I'm pretty certain the pair is a good pair. But when you step outside of the outside of the farm, right? Because the the devs aren't going to list something up there that's a bad thing. I think. I'll still double check everything. But when you step outside of the farms, you have to be a little careful, right? It takes a little bit of research. You make sure you have the right coin addresses. To make sure you're looking at the right liquidity pool. That was what Sloth was talking about. I mean, if you end up with one of the scam coins, you could accidentally go into something and lose your marbles, right? So there's all that. And then there's whole nother thing is I don't know how many other people did it, but quite a few of us did bring ERC20s over. So I brought ERC20s over, and I did put them into LP. And that's gonna create some wicked changes too. I just thought about this. Oh man, let me think about this for a minute. So, anyways, they were kind of a write-off in my head. I bought X amount 2 years ago that I wanted to bring over. Why did I want to bring it over? I wanted to bring liquidity over, wanted to bring value over to the chain. Probably not going to do very well with them, particularly if I'm pairing them up with the PRC20s, right? And that's kind of been what I think has been happening. But what just occurred to me is we're going to have another event. This is going to be cool. So like you take that any of these pools that aren't earning LP, right? We're going to create a new pool. I should not use the word pool. Let me take a step back. There are going to be new LP, maybe it is pool, but liquidity pools, right? As opposed to PulseX pools. Those are going to be torn down. That means somebody has to start the first LP for each one of these again, which makes me wonder because it took me a good 45 minutes to decide what ratios I wanted to set them at when I started pools.
Wait, Chris, are you saying all this stuff that's been happening, all these little hiccups, all these imperfections, there actually are some opportunities?
There are definitely some opportunities.
Is that what you're saying? I just want to make that check on
so
that.
So if you follow my thought here, if somebody is going to set up another pair, liquidity pair, and it's the Hedron PLS pair, somebody's got to set the first ratio. And they have to put some money into it to make it happen, right? And that kind of sets the tone for a little while.
You could be getting in before a lot of other people do, which means bigger percentage of the pool, more fees earned. But by the time the volume kicks back up, it's just it's a bunch of imaginary horribles. Honestly, it's really tragic.
That was satire. I detected satire. Wait a minute.
Yes, it was. Sorry, I'm still a little salty.
Sometimes you're funny.
I'm not crispy right now. I'm a little salty.
Crispy
I don't
and
know.
salty goes together.
I'm usually not affected by the dumbass comments, but every once in a while, I'm just like, guys, do not look farther than you've ever looked before. Reach into yourself. Zoom out, everyone. Zoom out.
Bro, I'm zoomed and I can see the whole chart, bro. It's down 99%.
It's so bad, Axis. It's so bad. Why are you zooming out that far? Why?
Yeah, don't zoom out that. Not that far. Just less. Zoom out less.
I need the meme where it's like you zooming out and it's like you start to cry and then you get happy. You start to cry, you get happy.
Yeah.
It's amazing. No, I mean,
great. Don't zoom out too far. You might find out the Earth's flat.
What?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. Clearly.
Do you have an announcement to make, Axis? Do you want to
no,
start
I don't.
a movement?
I'm definitely no. I got enough movements going. As a matter of fact, I'll be right back. I go hit the toilet.
Oh God, that kind of movement. One other thing I want to cover on the farms and stuff too is so again, maybe people just don't have a lot of money. Maybe they just have like $1,000, $2,000 and they're not incentivized to get a bigger percentage. They just can't get a bigger percentage of the pool or earn ink or things like that. Are there other reasons how can people actually wreck themselves? Like, what are some things? I'm just looking at some of these pools, looking at even the INC stuff. What are some scenarios? Like, we can do this inversion, right? Like, let's talk about the things that could possibly wreck you, and then don't do those things, like inversion technique. Like, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I said, well, if you talk about the farms, number one thing I'm concerned with is, and so you said invert. What's going to happen with the price of the ink? Why would I spend my time being in a pool to earn ink if that's the only reason I went in, right? If the price of ink's not going to hold up, that would be a negative question for me. You know, that would be one way I'd be like, I don't want to do that.
So it'd be so you could get wrecked by thinking INC is going to, you know, stay strong or go up more, and you're gonna, you know, you may be disappointed whether that happens or not. Okay.
Right, yeah, because as Sloth said, you know, when you go into an LP, you're rewarded, and the whole purpose of the incentive is to reduce the risk, right?
Yeah, and that's actually, I want to ask about that. Let's finish this, but I want to talk about INC because I was finishing Sloth stream this morning that he did yesterday, and he had some very interesting opinions about INC that I wanted to ask about too. I'm sure you gents do too. But just, is there any other things that people should just stay away from here? I mean, or you're personally staying away from?
I'm not doing. So right now the pools I'm in are just ink wrapped PLS, ink and PLSX. Yeah, ink and PulseX. That's what I'm in. I typically stay away from the stablecoin ones. I wouldn't be that opposed to a wrapped BTC or wrapped ETH one, just because. And this is actually only when the fees start to pick up again, and we're actually getting paid in them. But if you think of any large players where they're going to be bringing their money in to try to onboard, let's try to obtain like Pulse and PulseX and stuff, it'll probably be through ETH and BTC because they're the most liquid. They're the most liquid coins that exist. So that's a potential, like, you know, play right there if you wanted to accept some impermanent loss that way, the risk of impermanent loss that way. Also, if you're looking to sell out of your coins, so it's different for V3 because you can set the exact range you want to buy or sell at. With V2, you have to time it a little bit more of when you place it in or when you remove it. So if you were looking like, hey, on like 10% of my bag, I was definitely looking to take profits on, it actually wouldn't be a bad idea to put that in now and just earn the fees until it gets to the price that you want to sell. You sold out of some of it, earn fees, remove it, and then sell whatever's left. Like that's also a strategy.
That's so on the ratios too. Do you need to be careful on, you know, if Pulse and PulseX are at 1 to 2.5 or they're at 1 to 5, and you start providing liquidity? Are there strategies to like figure out, hey, you know, I'm okay with this ratio, but this ratio is, are there more risky ratios to start adding LP positions?
Yeah, ratios that are more divergent from the mean. So if you imagine like there's a line that's best fit across all the data points in a certain chart, right? The further you are away from that line, the higher risk there is for impermanent loss, because chances are the chart will revert closer to the mean the further away it is. It's like, yeah, what's that? It's like, yeah, there's like some law like returning to the means or something like that, where it's like if you're a genius in something, the chances are your child won't be as smart because, you know, you're so far away from the average, the chances of you being closer to the average is higher. So it's like the closer you are to like whatever ratio the two coins are trading at long term, the better. Because even if the impermanent loss goes away, the ratio goes away where you experience impermanent loss, chances are it'll come back. Now, these are mostly for pair-to-pair coins, and this doesn't take into account if a single coin continuously outperforms another over time. So, for example, that's why a stable coin thing would be like max impermanent loss, because, like, you know, the dollar is crap, and we're all trying to outperform the dollar, and so presumably all the charts that we're in should be going up and to the right against the dollar. But something like PulseX and Pulse, well, that might be able to find a ratio somewhere on average between just hypothetically 1 to 3, but maybe it's 1 to 1 at some point. Maybe it's 1 to 5 at some point. But if the mean is like 1 to 3, that's kind of where you want to place it. Because if you place it anywhere else, then when it goes back to the mean or in the other way, you're like way out of you're really experiencing permanent loss, and there's really not much waiting you can do to get back to the original ratio that you had.
So an odd ratio will amplify impermanent loss.
Yeah. A ratio that is less likely to exist in the future will have more impermanent loss. A ratio that's more likely to exist in the future has less impermanent loss. Generally speaking, like that's just like a rule of thumb.
Gotcha. This is a good one too, from A-Bit. Records have to go out of LP position, not monitor. So how often do you need to, on B2, PulseX, how often do you need to monitor position, and what would be signals that it'd be advantageous to pull it versus, not do anything?
When you guys want to take that?
Yeah, I was reading chat. Sorry.
I talked to that too. So there are really two ways of going about the LPing strategy. One is passive income. So it's a certain percentage of your portfolio within two coins that you really don't care if you own more of one than the other. The PulseX pool is a really good example of that, where it's like with 10% of my bag, do I care if I'm heavier in PulseX or heavier in PulseChain? Another way of saying that is with 10% of my bag, do I care that I'm only getting the returns of the coin that does the worst? That does the least, it has the least amount of gains. So if PulseX has the least amount of gains, I'm more likely to get those lower gains than the higher gains of Pulse, and vice versa. If you're okay with that and you want to earn a little bit of passive income on that percentage of your portfolio, then setting, forgetting, and harvesting / compounding / selling, whatever you choose to do, is the best, is a good option.
Mm-hmm.
The other form of LPing is basically chasing the fees, where you're really trying to make it so that the fees that you're earning vastly outweigh any impermanent loss you experience, so that you're making profit. This is more of a position that you have to actively monitor to make sure that you are staying in the money for longer and you're not experiencing any extra any extra impermanent loss that would make it so net you've actually lost money.
Gotcha.
Can I add one other thing to that?
Sure.
So, another thing that occurred to me is you do hear people say, "Don't LP stables," and 100% right. That's like if you're trying to earn fees and stay in the game, perhaps you would never want to do that. But in the future, that could be quite useful to you, just like we've always said with V3 liquidity, single-sided liquidity, and when you're trying to get out, you're expecting the price to move upwards, and you're able to sell out. The DAI, the USDC, the USDT, they've all been doing very well with the ink. And so, what is the worst case at the moment? If I was in there with those, and I am in there with them, is that I'll end up completely in stables, right? I mean, and that will never happen, but I mean, that would be the worst case, right? 99% in stablecoin. And so I would have lost opportunity cost. But again, it's all a matter of perspective, I think.
I want to ask too, is there a way to make passive income doing this type of stuff if you have enough capital put in? And of course, you weigh the risks and decide on the pairs. For example, with the least risky, it sounds like the consensus, the least risky pair that has a reward and sustainable over the long term appears to be the PulseX and Pulse pair. 50K USD over 30 days gives somebody $1,700. If you have enough capital, can you just make passive income off this stuff?
Mm-hmm. I would say that, yeah, but your general person might only have let's say $1,000 to put in. And so the way that you look at this equation then is you put in 1,000 now, but the price appreciation after 1,000x and in the holding of the rewards is where you actually win. So you provide the LP, maybe it's only $1,000 or $2,000, and it looks like it's only $35 a day, but on 1,000x, now that was $3,500 a day, or I'm sorry, $3,500 every 30 days. But you're gonna have to hold those rewards and keep your position in for the long term and not be adjusting them and things like that. And everyone needs to have a more forward-thinking mindset. And once Bitcoin and Ethereum really start moving in the next bull run, that the PulseChain ecosystem is going to benefit for it. Because to be honest, right now it can't stand on its own as it stands. There's no way to bring money in unless through the bridge from Ethereum. And at the same time, you have people chastising Ethereum. So it's kind of a point of contention right now. So we need either A, have fiat on ramps that you can bring money directly into the PulseChain, and or let Ethereum and Bitcoin do their thing, and then this ecosystem can benefit from that.
And what if you were trying to do make up for a monthly salary or 2 weeks or whatever? again, is it something that if you have a lot of maybe you stacked a lot for PulseX because you want to pulse or you want to make other plays in the ecosystem, what would you actually need to do? Like, how much? I guess I don't know. I'm just playing with the numbers here, but what would you actually need to have? And factoring in the ink price, I mean, it's been going down lately, but it had a huge run up. And then the appreciation of the coins within the pair. But if you were just trying to, it's kind of like HEX staking. You stake, and then when the stake ends, you do whatever with the yield, or you either roll it back, roll it into it, or you do something else with it. You sell it, and then you re-stake your principal. Is there some principle you could use to do that as well if you had big enough HEX stakes versus having big enough LP positions?
I mean, the thing that I want to say the most right here is that there's a big distinction between HEX staking and all this other stuff. Like the LP stuff is more of like an active management thing where you take on certain amounts of risk. Potentially, you're juggling the price risk of 3 different assets. You're risking impermanent loss and not pulling the liquidity at the right time. Which, by the way, if you were actually getting paid LP fees, that would buffer some of that risk, right? But you're not. So then you're totally reliant on the ink token to perform. And if it's not performing and it falls in price by 85 to 95%, you would have been better off just sitting on the sideline in cash and buying the bottom on ink, riding that wave next up the next time, or leaving a position in for the really long term and earning ink at a slower rate. So when you really consider everything, I think the big thing that's going over people's head right now is that HEX staking long and fat, or even just long and over, let's say 10,000 HEX per stake on the PulseChain might be the least amount of risk for the highest amount of reward over the long term. Yep. I'm not trying to shit on LP. LP is more it's a very good skill to have, and everyone's going to want to know this skill going into the bull run, because as the dollar prices of these things go up, if you play the LP game properly, you can actually compound returns and do better than HEX staking potentially. But there's just a lot more active management and a lot more risk that goes into LPs.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely here on the HEX staking, I'm just trying to look at the horizon, because before, you could do LP with HEX on Uniswap, V2 or V3, but now we have PulseX, and they have these farms, and they have incentive tokens, so it's giving people more ways to do it, and that's what I think people are struggling with too. Is where do I put my money?
Yeah.
Where do I put my Pulse? Where do I put my HEX? All that stuff.
Well, here's the thing for you to throw out. These farms don't last forever, right? They can go away at any time. New ones can be created. And, the rate changes all the time. They can go up and it can go down. So from a passive income perspective, like you're trying to obtain financial freedom, this is not the place I would go to first. This is my opinion. I would not go to farming first. I would go to HEX first. And I would figure out how I would want my ladders there, and my strategy would be to build up my immutable, non-actively having to manage, income stream to be able to do what I want to do. Then I would look at other things, which might include LP or even as far as farming.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I
Great
see a
segue
comment here that I gotta before we So Crypto Chino says he's very discouraged as of late after DCAing all of 2022. Now fast forward 6 months, my portfolio is 50% even lower from when the bear market hit bottom in December 2022, because HEX is at 1 cent. Just pain. So the best thing that can happen from right now is max pain. The best thing that can happen is the price of HEX falls another 90%, and good actors absorb all of the market supply. That's the best thing that can happen from this point. If you have the situation where we stop going lower here and we grind up to 5 or 6 cents, we could be trapped here for a lot longer period of time, because it takes a longer amount of time for good money to absorb that supply. Because we're still dealing with the same problem that we've been dealing with for 2.5 years, which is there was a group of people that got into HEX and saw it go up 1,000x in less than 6 months. It was crazy. It was less than 9 months. It just did a crazy run. And they've literally had so much economic energy, and they're not alone because there's traders that have jumped in along the way and other actors that are basically trading the price down indefinitely. The only way you can get them out and flush them out for good is max paying down. We had a chance before there was ever a PulseChain, there was a good opportunity there for the market to not see as much upside. So because PulseChain was announced, the price of HEX went to 56 cents, which was good because what it does is it shows what's possible. But because it was so fundamentally driven, we're literally still in that phase where we're trying to get rid of a lot of that hype energy from still 2 years ago when PulseChain was announced. And so we just need the guys that sacrifice to get made whole. People that are super polarized on one chain or the other need to get their bags divided. And once there's enough separation there between the original HEX holders and the whole PulseChain ecosystem, we can go through this bull run and reach levels that you could not even imagine are possible. But we're looking at like a time frame here, because by this time next year, your chances to buy these low prices will have been long in the past. So this is ultimately the pain that you feel is somebody else, literally some guy, big whale licking their chops right now, looking to make a move. And like if all you need to do is hang on, and if you staked yesterday or a week ago or a year ago, and you staked out like trying to time up this next 4-year cycle top, you're going to be just fine. Like if you're holding liquid HEX, you're going to be just fine. The only thing you can do to stab yourself right now is selling short, because both of the hexes are going to do really well. Like we're talking like, I believe that HEX can do a 10,000x from its bottom. So if you want to do split that in half and say each chain does a 5,000x, sure, whatever. One does a 3,000, one does a 6,000, whatever. Something like that. Like you're going to see the amazing return, but we need to get through this last pain wave. If there was no PulseChain, no fork, we might not have came this low ever again. And we might not have went as high as we did last cycle. This is just it's just a long period here where we're getting opportunity on both sides of the trade. And we just need to get rid of that last wave of people that need, that can just dominate the sector, man. It's like they've been holding us down for a long time.
Not trying to be a thousandaire. Hex.com. Well said, man. Well said. Let's go into incentive. So a lot of people like this coin. A lot of people don't like it. I don't want to say a lot of people. Some people don't like this coin. It's been very contentious in some conversations as well. As the dump forever narrative, I don't know when it's going to go away, or will it go away? Will it go back down? Will incentive go back down to $1?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think incentive's going to go down to $1.
What is the case for it, and what is the case for it not? Okay, so
in order to get incentive to go down that far, you need to get. You'd need to see I feel like you'd need to see the chain fail, because like right now the only incentive to provide liquidity is incentive. So there is a value there, right? It's the incentive to earn it for reward, and then to be able to flip that incentive into something else that you deem is more valuable to you, whether that be HEX, PulseX, Pulse, or some meme coin to chase it for a 10x or 100x, whatever it's going to be.
But what's the incentive to not sell it? I think that's the thing nobody can wrap their head around. Why wouldn't you just trade it, sell it?
Remember, when you say sell it, as long as you can swap it for something, so as long as the ink isn't being put into stable coins and extracted out, at least the money is staying in the system. So it's either going to Pulse, PulseX, HEX, or something else. So it's not really being sold. It's more like value is being transferred from one asset to the next, and because they all are tied together, the money staying in the closed loop of ink, PulseX, Pulse, HEX. Then the same guys that are swapping, let's say, ink for Pulse, for example, then they use that Pulse into liquidity provide more Pulse, and then they get more ink, and then so you can compound in a loop, so that you're not really. So ink can't just go. It's just not a down forever token in that way. The incentive to provide liquidity and the value proposition of PulseX right now with no LP fees is only ink. That's it. Like that is the value proposition, is that you can get that ink. And as long as not 100% of it is being extracted out of the system and bridged back over to Ethereum, the system can continue to function. It'll just be a slow bleed until the price of ink gets so juicy that a large percentage of that initial supply can be absorbed by a large player. And this is the same thing that happens with every crypto cycle bottom. Large players step in, they absorb a majority of the supply, and then they push it off that level, and there's no supply left for the market. So the market has to take it higher. So it creates floors and price charts.
I get that it's good for the ecosystem to be able to rotate ink into the blue chips, but still, why would you hold ink? Why would you not just rotate it every time, which doesn't make price go up?
Because the tokenomics of it are set up so that it's a fixed inflation rate, so that over time, the amount of inflation that's going to come out over that next year is half of what it was it changes every year. So like this year it's going to go from 0% to 100%. And then the next year it's going to go 50% more. And then the next year it's going to go 33% more. And then the next year it's going to decrease. And it's going to continue to decrease because it's a fixed inflation rate of like 31 million per year. But that 31 million per year relative to in like 3 years, it'll be like 100 million of them. That next 31 million is only 1/4 of the supply that's coming out. And by then, the supply will likely be so centralized in the hands of the few who are the master liquidity providers of the system, the true market makers of the system, the sharks and the whales, that they will be able to protect and defend their prices because there won't be enough supply on market to push the price back down past the floors that they've created over the previous years. Mm-hmm. And this is how all cryptocurrencies move, right? It's just a supply and demand dynamic. And so eventually ink becomes more valuable. And that is the very thing that drives demand for liquidity providing. So the value is inherent in the tokenomics of the inflation, and that it's a reward given away that will always have a higher and higher value relative to the ecosystem because it's what people will chase. And by the way, this gives a certain amount of middleman power. The guys that set up the farms are the ones who dictate where the ecosystem goes, right? So if you're the guy that's creating the farms, you can basically tell people where they're going to put their economic energy. So you're like, look, I have this token. It pays you out an APR of 1,000% today. You can put in liquidity here and start earning that today and swap it into your favorite coin. And then we'll buy it back from you once it's down 80% and create a floor and then push it up a little more so you can't sell it back down on us the next time to such a low level. And then we'll do it again. And then we'll do it again. And it's just rinse, wash, and repeat over and over and over. And this isn't exclusive to ink, but this is how ink works inside of this system. Mm-hmm. It's the same principle across all cryptocurrencies, supply and demand.
It's almost like if you look at it the other way around, like forget about ink for a moment. If you had a token that's created that has a similar kind of an inflation rate, what is its value proposition? Somebody's got to make a market. Okay. Where does the price come from? People speculate that other people will buy and sell and the price will go up. And then maybe somebody's going to do something with utility. And then eventually the market makers have accumulated enough that they I hate to say it as like they control the market, but I mean, they protect the market, defend the market, right? I mean, that's how I'm understanding what Axis says, because I've asked the same question to both him and others, like, what is the purpose of this, right? But it exists. I mean, how is it any different than the other token, really? I mean, in that way, and it has, and so the real super plus is it comes with utility. What's the utility? It's exchange, a medium of exchange between liquidity providers for other tokens.
I like the way Sloth talks about it too. How do you put it? Like you're monetizing risk with incentive token. Is that, I don't know how you put it, but you want to talk about how you think about it?
Yeah. So if you frame the incentive token by like it's the reward you get by taking on the risk of impermanent loss. When you're buying the incentive token, you are like kind of pseudo buying the risk other people took on in a way, because like they incurred risk of potentially getting left behind if a certain coin took off relative to another. And then the thing that they got for that reward, they're selling for it. So now you can buy it. And instead of taking the risk of impermanent loss, you basically just take the risk of owning an asset. So it's like you're able to indirectly buy the risk other people took by participating in market making without having to actually market make yourself. And then another important thing to keep in mind with the incentive token is that it's like paired pretty well with like PulseX and PulseChain and everything. So actually, like the buy and burn, part of that buying will actually probably be routed through incentive token pools. So even though PulseX is the thing that's going to be removed from the market in terms of it being removed from the pools and being burned, it is possible through certain ways of routing that like ETH, USDC, or something like that gets put in the ink pool, or say Pulse gets put in the PulseX and ink pool before PulseX is removed from the ink PulseX pool. Like these are actually possible things where the buying bird can route through the ink PulseX pool in order to pump the token itself. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I think everything Axis said was correct. It's just the people who are doing the market making that Axis says, they get a lion's share of the incentive pool, and that just becomes an endless source of passive income for them forever because they control what the price is going to be. They're earning, say if they're pairing ink with Pulse or PulseX, when the fees get fixed, they're going to be earning PulseX and Pulse. And then also at the same time, if they put that to earn more ink in the incentive pools, the amount of ink that they're earning passively day to day is not enough to break the market that they've already made for themselves. So they're able to extract that daily liquidity while keeping a high valuation of their underlying assets that's protecting that day-to-day income that's coming into them every day. It's actually a pretty advantageous situation to be in as long as you can accept that you're not really able to exit that underlying position of your assets because you're the one who's making the market for them to be that price in the first place.
So if you're buying incentive token, you're betting that the risk is valuable and people will keep taking risks. How would you describe people who buy it? Like what is their thesis if you're buying incentive token?
Let's say you hold a lion's share of the incentive token and the price of incentive token drops 90% to let's say it's like $5 again. At that point, you can buy so much more of the supply and centralize it to such a level that you know for a fact that now if you increase the price to like 20, 30, $40, you can raise the APRs to give people more of a buffer to take on that risk, to make them feel more comfortable, to provide liquidity, to make the ecosystem more robust and deeper liquidity across the pools and not just have one or two guys being the market makers. Now the entire thing can be a well-rounded market making economy.
And that gives them the sufficient amount of liquidity for them to slowly drip out from whatever rewards they're earning from their positions.
And the key element here is time. So it's as long as somebody can't break the time variable, meaning they can't dump the price down very quickly in a short amount of time, then they just don't have enough supply to affect the chart negatively anymore. So time is the element. When you let something drop 95% and you absorb enough of the supply, you are buying your time back in the price chart. That's the best way to think about this. It's like you are literally, if you could accumulate 1 billion HEX at 1/10 of a cent, you would be buying back a year's worth of time on the price chart, which would create the ultimate liquidity squeeze on the price and give it so much runway to move. Because 1 billion HEX is only 1/16 of the user supply, which is a huge portion of the supply. That's mostly because remember, based on hexfire.io's liquidity analysis, only 0.5% of all of the user supply is even on the market. That's 200 million HEX. So at any given time, there's only 0.5% to 1% of the supply, liquid user supply of 16 billion on the market for sale. And if you can buy a year or 2 years worth of time below a penny, you can be the market maker that gives this thing a floor and consecutive floors that just will never be penetrated ever again.
Just got a shout out to Eagle real quick. I buy bottoms and sell tops. I'm a genius. That's very well put. Very well put. You've summarized the conversation.
He is so smart.
I mean, if it were that simple, then there would be everyone would be in the 1%. There would be no 1%, I guess. But I guess there's a little bit more legwork to do. I want to look at charts. What do we got? I know a few people in the chat have asked about when PLS, Moon, and Please Chart stuff. You guys want to look at that?
Yeah, we can look at some charts.
Okay.
Look at Cake. Go look at Cake. That should be the first one you look at.
Cake.
Demonstrates it. Right. Well, you don't have to look at it. It just demonstrates one possibility for ink, right? Well, that's
This is
not a good
against
one.
RHMax.
That's not a good one. I just went
What-
USD when I did it.
Was that the index of the RH ecosystem?
Oh, your charts are.
Opportunity.
Well, switch to something else. We don't want to just look at down only.
I mean, the whole crypto sphere is full of down only right now. It's
I
not
know,
just.
it's terrible.
So this is what's something that's been cool. Pulse is actually gaining on PulseX in a meaningful way. You know, and I expect this trend to continue now that we know that the amount of buy and burn is going to be reduced by 80%. We can expect that this rate of that the pulse to PulseX ratio will try to shift back towards that 3-to-1, potentially 4-to-1, because now we're going to have a tremendous amount of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the system, and less buy and burn pressure. And we're seeing that now with this big spike, where Pulse is now gaining on PulseX. This is the inverted from the way people normally look at it. Normally, you'd look at it like PulseX versus Pulse. So you came down and you tapped the 382 exactly, and it's going to try to build some support here. Probably create some sort of a pattern. Not sure what that looks like. Maybe a ascending triangle or something. Chop in here. Potentially break lower. We'll have to see how this plays out. Remember, like, one thing hexagons aren't good at is paying respects to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Our market's largely dependent on what they're going to do. So, I know you guys don't want to see those kinds of charts, but Bitcoin looks really good right now. And if Bitcoin does well, we will do well. So just keep that in mind. In terms of PulseChain, it's been rolled over. Remember, the bridge topped out somewhere in here. So the bridge filled up, got unclogged. There was about 150 billion. I'm sorry, 150. I wish it was 150 billion. 150 million dollars got through somewhere in this general range, and then the price chart started to roll. And the signal was, you could have gotten this a long time ago. The signal was here on this candle that got bought back up, because it was just such a nasty sell signal, because it totally invalidated this trend. And yeah, even though it got bought back up, it's kind of telling you where the price is going to go, right? So you're in free fall. You're coming down to the 382 level. Typically, the place where, Hans HEX always famously says granny investors start to buy here between the 0.5 and the 618. And that looks like to be below SAC price for Pulse. So, I expect this level, personally. PulseX, kind of doing the same thing. It's already below SAC price. In terms of price decline, you could be seeing anywhere from 35 to 50%. HEX is starting to actually gain against Pulse. It's a positive sign. It means like a lot of these guys that were exiting HEX into Pulse or into PHEX or whatever they were going to exit into are starting to run out of ammunition. And so it's starting to try to recover that 100-to-1 ratio of Pulse per hex. So that's looking pretty good. And then PHEX versus Pulse, it's up 27.93% against Pulse in 4.5 days. It's well above 100-to-1. It's actually at 120-to-1, which is kind of where a lot of this wick action occurred across the ecosystem. So yeah, you're kind of testing into that. This is like the new range to test to see. And the most important chart here is the HEX to PHEX ratio. This is starting to bottom out. So, however long this is going to take, HEX is going to try to get back to parity. And the debate's not settled yet on what's going to happen here in terms of the divorce, so to speak, of PHEX and HEX. But I would like to think that people are going to, understand that this is going to be an oscillating metric for a long time, because there's certain value propositions for both chains that I've talked at extensively in different streams over the last few weeks. That because HEX is immutable and it's like a self-correcting system. If enough people don't stake, the APYs get better. If not enough people abandon EHEX, the supply gets more and more centralized and people that actually believe in it, and not so many that can dump it forever. And you know, if everybody can transact on PHEX and it's a faster chain, that's not necessarily always good for price. We've seen that the fastest money doesn't always equal the most valuable money. Matter of fact, Bitcoin and Ethereum are some of the slowest monies with the most problems, but yet they still have tremendously high values. And that's a function of supply and demand and being able to get the supply in the hands of those who believe in it. Hedron on Pulse has done tremendously well. It's held its structure against Pulse and now broken out to the upside. And same for Icosa. So Hedron and Icosa are actually looking tremendous on that chain. They've been some of the best plays in terms of stable long-term plays. So keep an eye on them. And then on the HEX side, the Hedron and Icosa pairs are just getting decimated. Like these are generational buy opportunities. And I set this fractal up recently on Hedron because I thought, you know, if this plays out anything like it did the last time we were at these levels, you'd get a capitulation down low to these, like, you know, $200 for a billion, $300 for a billion coins. Can you imagine? You can get a billion Hedron on Ethereum for $340 right now. You could get 10 to 20 billion and then take them to the auctions and get HEX T-shares at 85, 95% off over there. Those are going to be very valuable in the future. So I think that most of this is being completely overlooked because there's just so many places to look right now for yield that most people's attention has been diverted away from what's the most important stuff, which is buying the best deal wherever it is and getting the yield. Some of the yield's more risk-free and some of it's less risk. And we've kind of touched on that too over the course of the stream. And then Inc. This is the thing that matters the most in terms, because we're not getting paid to LP anymore. So now the only way you can get paid is through Inc. And because Inc. kept going up in price originally, that was what was like a positive field, like a positive feedback loop where the APRs kept getting better. There was more incentive to continue to provide more liquidity, and it made a very robust ecosystem while that lasted. Now this is in a downtrend, and now they're all kind of coming down together. So I'm looking to reload on this one under $15. This is like a range where, you know, it starts to get attractive again down here in the reload zone. It's just a matter of time. That would mean that the price can still fall another 50% from here in terms of Inc. I think that's all I really want to say, other than you know, EHEX on the weekly. We're at a pivotal moment. I think there's enough people that are being fudded right now that EHEX can go even lower. You know, get rejected off this levels and go test sub penny levels. That's been quite apparent to me. And yeah, I think that's pretty much my hot take on the charts.
Rawr! I hear the bear. What are we looking for, just fundamental wise, that could change sentiment or, you know, make us reverse course through this?
Yeah. So what you want to keep an eye on is like the bridge. So if more money starts being piled up on this bridge, let's say there's like you see this 150 million go up to like 200 million in a few days. That might come, but it might come after you see a move on Bitcoin. So like if Bitcoin was to break out and head into the mid 30,000s, and Ethereum was to rise as well, potentially that rise in price might allow a lot of where the money is in crypto to feel more inclined to take a risk on PulseChain. So then you might start to see, as the price of Ethereum rises, you might see EHEX take a bump up too. And you might see people come across that bridge, right? So the other thing too is like just fundamentally like seeing Pulse and PulseX come down to these levels down here where we didn't really get a lot of chance to trade with any significant volumes. Look at how these volumes are very low down here. To give big bag holders a chance to see how these volumes are declining, it really did take a lot of volume here today to push this down. So that's a positive thing, because it means that you're going to have a tremendous amount of fear or pressure to push this thing down into here. And so it's actually bullish that it took this much volume to get it down. What would be roughly like 15%. But if Bitcoin and ETH hold well, I don't see anything reason why this can't start to try to make a recovery. And you'd want to watch this against the 21 daily bull market support band. And fundamentally, besides that, obviously CEX listings are bearish because if you're in a centralized exchange and you want to hold an asset, or you want to grow your net worth, you want this market to mature, but you don't want to lose all the asset during the run up. So for a centralized exchange to list here and encourage people to deposit their funds, it's to their benefit to let this thing crash so they can buy up all the supply here and then create a market to go higher. And it's just the same thing. The market's always going to do the opposite of what retail thinks they're going to do. I mean, it's a dog eat dog world out there, and that's the reality of the situation. But once we're past this next 6 months to 9 months, I think if you held through the pain, and even if you brought in more, like, you'd be very, very happy. I'm excited. By the way, I might sound bearish, but I'm actually very excited right now. I like this stuff happening because it means that we can finally get out of this crap situation that we've been in for like 500, 600 days.
I have no emotional response to any of the bearish stuff. I'm like, cool. I'm excited. Mm-hmm. I want to ask though on SEX listings, CX listings, mm-hmm. Binance. If Binance were to say they're going to list PulseChain, would that be a buy the rumor, sell the news? What do you guys think?
Yeah, you'd almost want them to just list it and not say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the ultimate. That'd probably be a big top signal, honestly. If we're pumping hard and then Binance is like capitulates into listing it because they've been so adversarial to HEX and like Richard Hart over time. Yeah, that'd probably be a sell the news event.
Is that the wolves?
A classic.
Is that the wolves? People talk about wolves coming into PulseChain. Look out! Are those types of things? You think they'll happen where it'll be some players come in, buy a bunch of supply, and then maybe become the non-benevolent whales?
I mean, it's possible, but they gotta put in a lot of money to get that amount of position. I guess, yeah, you could say like the situation Axis was outlining where the prices get so low you can get a big percentage of the supply. Say hypothetically CZ wants to buy up most of the supply and just sell down every single pump that goes forward. I guess that's possible, technically. But then they have to also support the prices that those low prices. They would be putting in value into the system at the lows. So like they would actually be providing a benefit in the short term.
Yeah, I think Chaos Creations makes a good point. Don't hold your breath on Binance. They're committed adversaries. What we really want to see here out of all this is we want to see these hexagons that are building cool stuff. They need to keep launching the cool stuff. I'm looking at you, Hex Scout, Ju Young doing HSI Watch, the Staker app team, the guys creating the fiat on-ramps like 0x Coast and Rackham Rochelle's exchange, these direct fiat on-ramps into Pulse. And we also need the devs to clear out all the shit tokens that are copy tokens that have no value or just aren't, not that you can't delete them out of the blockchain, but you need to make them hidden away. And so there's less confusion. There needs to be less confusion and easier on-ramps. If we can get a few of those things going, we can start to get detached from the Ethereum and Bitcoin price movements. If you truly want this thing to succeed, we need those things. And we need them, this year, hopefully.
Well, get this one question before we wrap up too, from EP. Do we think HEX will outperform everything? I think it's an interesting question because the PulseChain, PulseX is the new hype. HEX, even everything related to HEX is kind of like, there's this new thing here. Why are we still trading them? What are they going to do? A lot of people who are excited about them are, shiny object syndrome, but within the ecosystem, which has pros and cons. But HEX being at a penny, and you got PulseX below SAC price, PulseChain barely over SAC price, incentive tokens in the mix now. Is there a case for HEX, from now, from the local bottom or so, outperforming everything, and I want time horizon?
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think? I know I'm in that camp that HEX can still outperform everything in cryptocurrency, minus like the occasional Pepe or something. Like anything that's long financially, like a financial blockchain innovation like HEX, it's going to outperform everything. Period.
Yeah.
Especially if like what I've been saying becomes true, right, about the supply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely more in that camp than like. Yeah, I'm definitely more in the camp that HEX will outperform everything, especially if it becomes, it is like the quote unquote store of value on PulseChain at the very least. So there will be a certain segment of the user base taking profits into it and staking it out long term and or short term. And yeah, I don't see why not. Like I definitely think HEX will probably outperform everything long term. PulseX, everything will outperform it for some time, but I think it'll bring HEX up with it, and then HEX has its chance to outperform after it's brought up by it as well.
Broke up there for a moment, didn't get the last 10 seconds.
Oh, I agree.
And before,
it's like,
before Access, you get into it too.
You call these angles, man. It's like you call the price action, and if it's not in the direction people want, they're upset. It's like, that's why I usually don't talk during certain times, and that's like, that's all I can say, man. It's better just to stay quiet a lot of times.
The most straightforward argument, though, is people bring up is, why would HEX outperform everything? It's not at its bottom. It's not at its all-time low. PulseChain has launched its new 10,000x meme narrative. How do you rationalize about that? How do you say that HEX is going to outperform everything when it's not the new?
Because the same guys that hold Pulse and PulseX were the guys that had all the HEX, so nothing changed. That's why, because this is supply and demand. It's not. Hold on, what chart am I? Okay, coin. I'm trying to show you guys on the chart what I'm talking about. Like, the same guys that have all the HEX have all the Pulse and PulseX. It's not new. The distribution is the same. Understand, please. Like, so all that matters is the downside. Like, if this downside goes, actually, from the very beginning of HEX to the bottom, 98.65%. Where are we at now? 97.79%. That's what you need, is you need full capitulation to the lows. And then this can repeat. Literally, it's a reset on the chart. Like, this can literally repeat. Potentially. Not guaranteed. But we need to get that last flush low. This thing's not going to go up until all of the people that are scared are out. I don't care if it takes 2 months or 10 months. They will flush out here, and then we can get the rip. Because this thing can turn around quickly when it does. It's not hard to pump HEX. It's a question of, is it worth even keeping it propped up? That's the question. And if you have all the supply, then it might be worth keeping propped up.
Mm-hmm. Especially because of 30-day rolling stakes or 14-day rolling stakes. There's really good yielding and passive income opportunities with having a high HEX price, and outside people providing liquidity at those levels to also earn a passive income as well, or a income. Maybe it's not passive if they're LPing.
Is it right to say that the average person doesn't think the way that a market maker does, and therefore sometimes we don't understand? Because I always try to put it in terms I understand, and I'm like, there's no way this could happen this way. But it really has to do with somebody making a market and what's their motivation for making a market.
Mm-hmm. Because the guy, so yes, you can make a market if you know there's not enough ammunition after you make this move for them to dump it back down to here. How do you make sure that they don't have enough ammunition? Because you bought it all down here. That's how you know. And then you can create price floors And this can be, you can be in here profit taking over time because you've bought back all your time here. You and along with everybody else. And then because the price goes up so fast, it forces other people to have to reaccumulate a new range, which then creates structure going into that next bull run. With any help from Ethereum and Bitcoin, you can really get a nice leg up in this next bull, and we can go to multi-dollar targets. That has not changed. Nothing about that has changed.
Beautiful.
You know, and by the way, you know, I'm not saying that Pulse and PulseX can't overperform, but we don't want, it's kind of a catch-22 because if PulseChain does a 10,000x, well, now you're back with the fee problem again because you're basically back to where you started on Ethereum.
I thought we solved that already. I thought we got rid of the high fees. God damn it.
So it's like,
For
you
now.
know, would you rather not that HEX pumps and then Pulse stays, you know, let's say it only does like a 500x or a 1000x, but yet fees are still manageable? Or would you rather Pulse pumps like crazy and HEX just pumps a little more? It's weird. Like you got to think about these things, guys. Like it's not just new thing go up. It's not like that because the guys that have the Pulse and PulseX sacrificed with HEX that they got back here when it was worth nothing. Okay, so yeah, sorry to be such a bear today, but I'm just trying to be realistic.
No, don't apologize, man. This is good information. Last question before we wrap up. Just on that too. You know, a lot of people have Pulse, have HEX. Everybody wants to see this thing go to the moon. Is there something? Do we just need more people from the outside? We need more onboarding. Like, what? Need more people to buy it? Have a reason to buy it? We need macro conditions to change. What makes PulseChain go up from here and all the ecosystem?
Yeah. Axe has been saying it. We don't need people to buy. We need people to sell. We need people to get out. That's what we need right now. Get them out, and then once the deal presents itself, the money will come to it because the value is just there. So no, I don't think we need. We have the use cases. We have the what's the word I'm looking for? The ecosystem, the infrastructure. We have the use cases. We have the infrastructure. We just have some people we got to flush out, and it's as simple as that.
Flush out, flush down, flush.
That's
flush
right.
away.
Weak hands go down the hole. That's right.
Yeah.
It gets in the hole. It does not ask why. It does not ask why. It puts it in. I'm trying to relate this. Puts lotion on the skin. Yeah, I was like, how can we turn this into that?
Hey, Matt, here's one for you, though. Just, you guys already mentioned this to these guys, but the number-wise, we're up 3% in adoption, at least in terms of HEX holders.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about the actual bullish on-chain metrics of like we have new highs on holders, more stakers. Like there's still there's been days when HEX has been down 25-30%, and we're having thousands of buys versus only a few hundred sells. Like, don't forget about all that too. That's going on, right? You know.
Yep. It's like an underlying current is going in the right direction. We just need like a minor. Maybe not minor, but like immediate term downswing in order to let those fundamental upward trajectory metrics actually take over.
Yeah, and you also have to remember this other point, right? I see some people posting it in the chat as well, right? Okay, we kind of like in an echo chamber of sorts, and you think you know all about everything that's going on, right? But it's just general thing in business. You got $1 million business, for instance, and you got $1 million in sales every year, and you go to your best salespeople, hey, listen, we're going to do 10 million this year. We do 100 million. They all look at you like you're nuts. Where are we going to come up with 5 million, 10 million, million more in sales? The pool is so big. There's so much business out there. Even if you could corner the market, you can't. It would take you years, right, to corner the market, right? And so, how does this relate to this? There's plenty of money outside of crypto. We build a place where it's a destination where you can come and do what you want to be able to do and achieve what you want to achieve, and people will bring the money. And it's here. I'm not even building it. I mean, I'm just doing my little piece, but. Anyways, my point is there's a lot more money out there that can come than we know.
You know, I think that's the thing is when when people are going to believe that it's bottom, when is it actually going to happen, when they're going to deploy the capital, and then in the meantime, the yield opportunities in this ecosystem are insane, and that's what keeps me excited. I get up about every day. I'm excited. I don't care. LP bug, whatever. Bridge is backed up. Fucking, I don't care. This is the place to be.
This is true.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here telling you guys to dump into my pockets if I didn't think there was opportunity here. Seriously. I do think that $250 for a bag of a billion hedrons is criminally undervalued.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and tell you not to keep doing it, because
I'll take $50 per billion. I'll take that.
you might get it. You might actually get it.
That'd be nuts.
Steph, hit the sell button.
Steph, Gunther, where are you? We need you.
Please dump it all for Pulse Bitcoin.
Motley, take all your ETH hedron. Dump it.
Dump it. I actually saw a guy
that one
HEX stakes the other day and not forget to mint his e-hedron on the process, because he was such in a rush to get it across the bridge to dump it for PulseX. Hilarious. Unbelievable.
I know. Right?
Unbelievable. That supply gone forever.
Poof.
That's game theory right
See
there,
ya.
folks.
Are we still talking about crypto? The chat's talking about ice cream. We're doing Ben & Jerry's. We're doing Dairy Queen.
Dude, I had the best
Pretty good.
vegan cookies in my life yesterday.
Oh,
Like, I'm talking like,
it's hard to do.
check this out. If you have this place called Midnight Treats, go check it out. Like, they're amazing. They're like better than a non-vegan cookie, literally.
It's hard to do. It's hard to make a good one of that gluten-free stuff. It's hard to make a very tasty one, but I would be interested if there was.
Yeah, Midnight Treats. Go check it out.
Midnight Treats. All right, gentlemen. Let's Axis. What do you want to take us out on? We'll go around the table, around the horn
Hey,
here.
man, dude, some of the greatest opportunities of this entire cycle are presenting themselves now, and there's a chance that in the next 90 days you'll get an even better one, and then after that, it's over. So be on high alert.
Is it just on my end, or did I not hear any of that?
I heard it
on your end.
Okay,
Might just be you.
okay, it's on my end. My bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, first for a second.
concur with Axis. If you have the means,
God, you're not going to repeat it either, are you?
if you have the means, the probability that these buying opportunities in the next coming months will be ones we talk about for years is pretty high, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So scooping up billions of hedron for $100, maybe if we're lucky, less than $100. Scooping up 100,000 hex for less than $1,000, million for less than $10,000. You'll be able to set yourself up really well in the future. By getting in at these low levels, if you're buying with these quote unquote whales that we speculate are going to protect the price in the future.
I really wish RHMax that you had heard what Axis said, because it was brilliant. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go a slightly different direction. This is
Somebody
year
clip that
2.
and please tag me so I can understand what happened the last 30 seconds.
Hey, this is year 2 and what could be the 4-year cycle. This is the side up movement. We still have runway until the overall crypto market goes into the 3rd year and then the final blow off year, assuming we do 4-year cycle. You have some time to put some planning in place. Buckle down and figure out the plan. Figure out your plan. That's what I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Got your plan, and opportunity mindset. Everyone. Opportunity mindset. That's my new favorite phrase. I like to say opportunity mindset. I'm going to keep saying opportunity mindset. Opportunity mindset. That's all I want to say. Everyone, thanks for coming on, guys. This is awesome. I'm glad Axis brought the other 2 guys here. I've never met before, but they seem to say smart stuff every once in a while, and I trust his judgment. So that's.
But we're always funny. We're always funny though.
At the very least,
like I said, it's full circle. Full circle.
If you guys
Axis, you guys
check out Hex Breaking on Twitter. absolutely freaking hilarious. Like seriously.
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say earlier. It's pretty funny when you brought up. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Like I'm literally like,
Oh boy.
It's the
Me and-
Babylon Bee of our community.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the onion of Hex news.
Pretty
It's
much.
amazing, man. Me and my wife were fucking cracking up about it.
You never know. You never know. All right, everyone. Scivive and 5555. We are out.